Welcome, 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 friends. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 cards you should not be playing in Marvel Snap and what you should be playing instead, along with some bonus content at the end. I'm your host, D, also known as MTF Doom, now that they allow you to change your name on Marvel Snap. I hope you enjoy. Just before we get into things, quick reminder that the best way to let me know that this content is engaging, elucidating, and enlightening is to subscribe and follow and leave a comment. Whatever that you feel comfortable with, I appreciate. I put a lot into this. I had to delete some decks to make this one because I ran out of slots. So I'm going to have to remake some decks. That's all for you. I do this for you. Number 5. Quicksilver. Don't play Quicksilver. I love seeing people play Quicksilver against me because it means I'm going to win. Don't play Quicksilver. If you are worried, if you're playing a deck that... The thing is, like, we can break down every instance where you might be like, no, Quicksilver's probably good in this situation, and it's not. Like, I can give you reasons why it's not. That's not going to be the case for all the cards on the list. Some of these cards will have absolute, like, corner fringe cases where you might play them. But in general, they get overplayed. They get played into situations where, like, the deck doesn't really work for that card. Quicksilver, there is not a deck that works for this card. There just isn't. If you're playing the Silver Surfer deck and you want all 3-drops except for Quicksilver and Domino, you're better off just waiting and playing another 3-drop or having options for another 3-drop. It also reduces the chance that you're going to see Silver Surfer if you play Quicksilver, because it's one less draw that you have, and you need Silver Surfer to make that deck work. If you're playing the Agatha deck and you want like a 1, a 2, and then, you know, either Wave or Lady Sif, it reduces the chance that you're going to draw Wave or Lady Sif, and you're going to have more turns where Agatha is in control, and that's bad. You don't want Agatha in control because she's bad at playing the game. There's no situation, and we're going to get in. So, okay. So what do you play instead? Fucking anything. Play anything instead. Play whatever 1-drop is good for your deck. Play a 0-drop that has 1 power, because at least then you can surprise people on 6. I don't know. Like, what? There's no... If your deck is better off, if you want a generic good stuff 1-drop, play Sunspot. Iceman, Korg, all of them, right? Nightcrawler. If you're playing an on-reveal deck, like Rocket Raccoon, and then later on you can Odin, but we're going to get into that. Spoilers. You know, Iron Fist, if you're playing the movement deck. Even if you're not playing a movement deck, if you're playing Miles Morales, you can play Iron Fist, just so you moved something so that Miles Morales only costs 1. Like, that's a better use of your 1 mana than playing Quicksilver on 1, is playing Iron Fist plus a 2-drop on 3, and then Miles Morales plus a 3-drop on 4. That's you've done so much better for yourself, and I'm really proud of you for doing it. The reality is, play Misty Knight, because she has no ability, so at least she gets buffed by Patriot. Like, don't play Quicksilver. Don't do it. If you're playing the Khazar deck and you just want all 1-drops, play a bunch of 1-drops that have cool effects like Korg and Iceman. Those are way better. Alright, don't play Quicksilver. Awesome. Moving on. Number 4. Deadpool. And this one's going to be... We're going to start with the controversial takes here, because I know there's going to be people who are like, no, Deadpool's really good. If you just destroy him 5 times every turn for 5 turns, then play him on turn 6, you know, he's doubled 5 times. I can't do the math. I'm gay. But he's going to be really big. And yeah, that's true. When Death's Altar was the feature location, Deadpool was really good. He was actually probably game-breaking. But in general, he's not very good, because it starts as a 1-1. So he dies once and he turns into a 1-2, which is just on rate. We've seen a million 1-2s right here on screen. You see them. And then, he dies again, he turns into a 1-4. So cool, you've spent 3 power and 3 turns to get 4 power, 3 energy and 3 turns to get 4 power in return. And also you had to have it go right twice. And you only got a 1-4. Like, you could play Titania as a 1-5 on the last turn, right? She's not going to switch sides if you play her correctly on the last turn. You could play Ebony Maw, he's a 1-7. Yeah, he's got a bigger downside, like, but you know, how many times are you going to really destroy Deadpool, even in the deck that wants to destroy things? In general, my thought is that if a card is good, if it goes right once, right, if you have one other card. So Storm, if you have either like Juggernaut or Jessica Jones or whatever, like Storm is good, right? You don't need a bunch of things to go right for Storm to be good, but she's not usually that good on her own. Like, you need one other thing. But Deadpool, you don't need one other thing, because then you just have a vanilla 1/2 that you were worse off for, because Iceman could have done something for you, but Deadpool didn't. So you need it to go right multiple times. And, you know, I don't like that. Like Human Torch, a 1/2. If you move it once, it's a 1/4. A 1/4 for one, you know, a 1 energy 4 that only had to do something once is playable. And I hardly see people play Human Torch. I think it's also a fact that the movement deck isn't very good. But, like, yeah, Deadpool, like, you know, and you could say, oh, well, if you, like, Hulkbuster him, right? Just like the Multiple Man. If you Hulkbuster Multiple Man, or if you, like, hand buff him or whatever. But that's still more than one thing that had to go right to get Deadpool to work. We don't stand. Play these instead. Nova or Wolverine. Nova in general, right? You only need to get it, again, to go right once. You just have to destroy him once. Give all your cards +1 power. So now, you know, for 1 energy, if you've destroyed him with 2 cards on board, you're already on par with what Deadpool was going to give you, right? With 4 on board, which is, like, not super likely, but not terribly unlikely either, you know, you've now had the same thing that you were going to get out of 2 Deadpool destroys plus replays. You've gotten out of 1 Nova destroy with no need to re-spend any energy. And then the buffed Wolverine. You know, just, again, this follows that rationale if it only has to go right once. If you destroy Wolverine once and he becomes a 2/4, you don't have to pay anything to replay him, and you are happy. A 2/4 stat line is fine. It is playable. Now, if you destroy him twice, he's a 2/6, and that's great. You also didn't have to re-spend any energy to keep replaying him. There is a slight downside in that it's random, but that can also be an upside, because he can get into Sanctum Sanctorum. Just a naked, sweaty, greasy Wolverine reforming himself in Sanctum Sanctorum. Think about it and be erect, my friends. Ooh, number 3. Don't play Collector. You can see I play Collector. I played Collector. The problem with Collector is partly the deck he's in, and partly the upper limit of how big he can get, because your hand size is limited, because you need your hand full for Devil Dino, so you can't risk playing too many things out, so you can't risk adding too many cards. Because, like, if you play your hand too low, when you Moon Girl, you only got 2 cards, so, like, it grew the Collector by 2, but now you only had 4 in hand for your Devil Dino, and, like, if one of them is a Devil Dino, you have to play it out, and you have to play it out again, and then they only get +4, and it's all very complicated when I say it, but the reality is the Collector just doesn't get as big as you need him to be if you're also doing Moon Girl Devil Dino stuff, and in Pool 3, it's just not good enough, and I hate that, because you can see I have this cool variant with the cool Ultra border, the Omega, whatever it's called, border. I love the Collector as a card. You can't play him. You can't play him in Pool 3. You can play him in Pool 2. He's one of the best cards you can play in Pool 2. At least he's one of the best decks. I don't know if he's the best card in that deck, because honestly, these are better. Both of these are better in Pool 2. Like, how often... Collector comes down on 2. How often, really, are you getting more than 5 cards added to your hand, right? How often are you getting more than 4? Like, either of these, this Angela can be a 2/6 with not that much downside. In fact, there's some extra upside to Angela in that she can do sneaky leader beats. Although leader got nerfed, so I don't know how much upside that is. But, like, Angela is a 2/6, maybe a 2/8 if you play Nightcrawler into her lane and then move it. You know, if you're playing anything with 1-drops, those 1-drops can get Killmongered and make her bigger. Angela's just very good. And it's so much easier to get her to a 2/6 than it is to get the Collector to a 2/6. And she gets to a 2/6 doing things you were already gonna do, which is playing cards. Adding cards to hand is such a more difficult thing to do that and it's a harder balance to draw, right? Angela, like, the best part of her threat is that your opponent's like, well, they only have the Angela in that lane, and we're in turn 6, but, like, you know, Angela can represent 6 power. Like, I don't just have to beat a card that they're gonna play. I have to beat a card plus 2 power for each card, and I don't know if I can beat that. And then Lizard is a 2/5. That is a 2/2 if your opponent fills the lane, but that's not really a downside, because if your opponent filled that lane, they didn't fill a different lane unless they did, if they're playing a zoo deck. There's a lot of iterations here, but in general, Lizard is just a 2/5 because you're going to play him more into lanes that you are not contesting your opponent on. That's the point, is that he acts as an inertia. Like, I've used that term pretty often in my videos, but the idea is that he acts as the first point of power in a lane that neither of you has hard committed to yet, and it makes it really hard. Your opponent suddenly has to, like, play a 4-drop, like, to beat your 2/5. And if you're going into turn 6, right, like, on 5 you play this and your opponent didn't play anything there because you're fighting over 1 lane right now, or 2 lanes. Now going into turn 6, your opponent's got to, like, commit a 4-drop to beat your 2-drop, and then they only have 2 energy left, or they just, like, give up on it. They're like, okay, I guess I lose that lane to just a 2-drop. Lizard's really good. Angela's really... I'd say Lizard's probably better in more decks, but both of these are probably better even in the Dino deck. Oh, number 2. Yep, we're getting into the real spice. I know I'm going to get backlash for this. I don't care. Don't play Odin. Don't play Odin. I know it seems like silly, because Odin is, again, like, very good in Pool 2 and can do really cool things. But in general, it is very, very telegraphed. And not only do more people play Cosmo in the upper echelons, but more people understand when they're just going to be, like, hoisted by an Odin. And it's so obvious that you lose so many play points, and you could just be doing better things. Like, we'll get into it. Okay, so I know, like, this one's harder to quantify. There's this idea that, like, you really kind of shouldn't be playing a lot of 6-drops in a lot of ways anyway. 6-drops have to do a lot to be good, because if you've played the discard deck through Pool 2, you'll know this. You'll get in this position where you've grown your Apocalypse to be like a 6/95. It doesn't matter how big he is, that's the point. But your opponent sees that what you're going to play on turn 6 is an Apocalypse. And if they can just make it so that they're winning all 3 lanes, like, if they're... Yeah, they might be behind in 2 lanes, but if they're just going to, like, play 2 3-drops to change that and be ahead in all 3 lanes, they know that all you can play is either an Apocalypse or the card you drew. And, like, it's just very, very telegraphed. It's very easy. So you need your 6-drops to be able to, like, deploy to more than 1 lane or be sneakier or whatever. And Odin, like, you know, I guess on the White Tiger can deploy to more than 1 lane, but, like, isn't very sneaky. And just in general, he just isn't that good. So I'm gonna, again, like, I know I'm gonna get some hate for this. Like, oh yeah, D, easy for you to say, play Wong and Absorbing Man. But the thing is, Wong is so much better than Odin, because, like, Odin, you can only play on reveals that are good, like, on turn 6 again, right? Wong, you have an extra turn, right? Because you have 5. So you're on reveals. If you're on reveal, like, did something like, I don't know, Agent 13 is probably the worst card you could play there, but it adds a random card to your hand. Odining that on 6 does nothing. Playing it on turn 5 as an out, like, I don't have anything that wins me this game, I can fish for something before I retreat, is something. It's something. It's better than Odin, right? Like, I would never play these cards together, but it's still a better play than Odin. But it also means you can do, like, Iceman and, like, Scorpion, right? And, like, I don't know. There's all kinds of good stuff that you can do that's just good on turn 5 in a way that it just isn't on turn 6. And in the same token, if you're going into turn 5 having done, like, a White Tiger, right, play, and your opponent's like, oh, they're going to Odin, but then you like Absorbing Man and a 2-drop on 6 in that order. So Absorbing Man, also White Tigers, and then you also had a 2-drop. You don't have to play it into the same lane anymore. So suddenly your opponent like isn't thinking about, oh, I was going to Cosmo there or something. And like, it's just so much better. Again, like in general, lower cost cards are better than higher cost cards, but this is way better. Just Odin, as soon as you can get out of, and the other thing is, I understand Odin is free. Like, I understand that. As soon as you can get out of playing Odin, don't play Odin. Number 1, Scarlet Witch. This should actually be lower, but I kind of came up with it while I was doing the recording. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So Scarlet Witch is replace this location with a random new one. Like, if you've played long enough, especially when there isn't a feature location or hot location going on, you understand not to play into the hidden locations very often. Like, sometimes you have to, sometimes it makes sense, and if there's like a hot or feature location where getting in, like the current one, the castle that you can only play 6 costs into, there's some added value in playing into the dark right now, because if you put your 2-drop there, your opponent might just not be able to contest it, because like they don't run any 6-drops, because 6-drops are bad, as we've just covered, which is why I did it in this order. This wasn't a mistake. It was a happy accident. So there's some value in playing into the dark, but in general you don't want to, and this just turns every card played there into playing into the dark. And if you're at all an entrenched player, you already know what the answer is. Just play Storm or Rhino. In general, Storm is better, I think, but there is value in, if you're not playing a deck that can go off or like have big turn 4 plays or doesn't play Juggernaut, Rhino can be better. But in general, I like Storm a lot better. You could tell because I have the alt art with the cool background and frame and whatever. But there's a world where you just Rhinoing, making something ruins, no effect, no fancy nothing. He's got 1 extra power, I guess. That's something. These are better. Just play these instead, okay? That's it. Bonus content. And then finally, there's like these unremarkable but bad cards that I see played too often, but they don't really have replacements. We'll go over those quick. Adam Warlock, 2-0, end of each turn. If you are winning this location, draw a card. This is not as good as it looks. A lot of people have covered this before, but basically they couldn't buff this at all. Like, if they made this even a 2-1, it would be too good. But as a 2-0, do nothing, it's just not good enough. And I've mentioned, like, you can kind of play it in the negative deck. Kind of. I'm playing a hand buff deck right now that I want to play it in, but I don't think it's good enough for that. Like, I just don't think it is. Even if this got, like, a Koyade or something, it's not good enough. It sucks, because Adam Warlock is a cool-ass character, from what I understand. This is nice art. My childhood best friend's name is Adam, and he's a Warlock. So this would be really great to be able to play, but I can't. Hazmat. This, I know you're going to be like, yeah, but with Luke Cage, this card's lit. But it's not. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. If you don't know this, Luke Cage... So Hazmat, afflict all other cards with -1 power. That says all. That does not say your opponents. It says all. Some of you are going to be like, yeah, but with Odin, with Wong and Odin, this card's really good, which is fine. Because it doesn't afflict your card. It doesn't afflict itself with -1. So if you have Wong and Odin, and you like Wong, then Hazmat, then Odin, everything will be at like -1,000, and Hazmat will be at 2, and it'll win you the game, because like your opponent had 4 cards in that lane, and you functionally only had 3. But it's not worth it. And then if you don't know, Luke Cage says your cards can't have minus power. But the thing is, I've covered this before, but just because like I know I have a lot of new audience on each of my videos because my analytics tell me, Luke Cage, if you silence Luke Cage, your cards regain all the -1 powers that they had stacked on them. They don't just forget that they had minus power like they might in, like I say, in Magic the Gathering. If a card says it can't have -1 counters placed on it, and then you like get rid of that ability, the card just never had the -1 counters on it. It doesn't regain all the -1 counters. It just doesn't have them. So it's not like that in this game. If you silence Luke Cage, or better yet, if you rogue Luke Cage, so now your cards can't have -1 and theirs can, theirs will regain all those minuses and you'll lose the game. And it's really funny to do to an opponent. And a lot of people, like, Hazmat's a really cool card, and I wish it was better, but it is not. Okay, Medusa, just a 2/4, but only if you play it at the middle location. As you can see, like, in Pool 1 and 2, I played a lot of this, but you could tell by the border. But once you get into Pool 3 and you just have any amount of options, limiting yourself to only playing in the middle location is not good. There's just too many times where you can't play this, and it's weird how often I still see this getting played, and how often people, like, have to play it in a side lane. It's like, yeah, that's why you don't play this one. Quake, 2/3 reveal, on reveal, if this is in the middle location, swap the positions of each location. Again, sort of, I mean, same as Medusa. Like, there's too many times where you just can't play it into the middle for whatever reason. This, again, has the added utility of sometimes dicking your opponent over by swapping a location that doesn't work for them. And the problem is with this card, it doesn't line up just as often as it does, right? The middle location's like negative zone, and you play like 2 cards into it, and then you play Quake and you shift it somewhere else, and now you get the good location and your opponent has like 2 or 3 cards in negative zone. That's cool. I guess that's a feel-good moment. But then, like, if the middle's a good location and like the Quake only works if you play her in the middle, well, suddenly you have a bad location there. Morph is really fun. There's like a roulette deck that's like plays like Morph and Jubilee and stuff. That's just like, I don't know, maybe I can high roll into it. If you want to play like a high roll deck, that's cool, and I appreciate people like that who want to just play goofy decks and whatever. But Morph is just not good. Like, it doesn't matter if you get like 7 stats for 3, you know, because you hit like their synergistic 6-drop. Because like that synergistic 6-drop only worked for their deck, and like you can already just play a 3/7 if you want to play Maximus. Like, 3/7s just exist. Yeah, sometimes you get like a 3/12 because he's a Magneto, but like also sometimes you just don't get anything good. Like, it's just not good. Don't play Morph. Okay. And then Crystal 4/4 on reveal, if this, again, middle location, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 3. I love these effects. I wish this card was better. And like, if you're playing, the thing is, like, how often are you empty-handed at the end of the game? Really, really think about how often you, like, even the Zoo decks don't get that low, usually. This can be good for finding combo pieces. This can be good, you know, if you need something that, like, you have to have on turn 5 or 6 and you don't have it yet, this can get you that. This can be good in, like, a Zabu deck as a pseudo second Moon Girl, right? If you can dump your hand and then Crystal and then draw 3 fresh cards, that's something. I mean, it's something now. Zabu's getting nerfed, so it won't be something soon. But in general, again, I see, and you can see, like, she's got a green border. Like, I've tried to play Crystal before, but she just isn't that good. And she's not as good as how often I see her, which is why she's in this list, right? Like, I'm not including cards that I just never see play because everyone knows they're bad. I'm including cards that I've seen that I'm like, I don't think people should be playing this card. So that's it. That's the whole list plus the bonus content. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What did I miss? And what am I wrong about? That no, this card is actually really good, D, you're just stupid. I love to hear all of it. And I will see you all tomorrow with a new gameplay video. Have a great day. Goodbye.